There is an old saying, "It is better to become the passive in order to see what will happen. It is better to retreat a foot than to advance only an inch." This is called being flexible while advancing, pushing back without using force, and destroying the enemy without engaging him. There is no greater disaster than underestimating your enemy. Underestimating your enemy means losing your greatest asset. When equal forces meet in battle, victory will go to the one that enters with the greatest sorrow. The paragraph that really stood out to me in this chapter was the first one that talks about how it is better to retreat a foot than to advance only an inch. This is one of the main underlying ideas behind Wu Wei, the idea that going forward isn't always the most optimal option. Sometimes it's better to move slowly until the right moment. If faced with the decision between going forward an inch or going back a foot, our first inclination is usually to go forward every time. However, what we don't take into account is that the paths to the things we want are often not straight lines. They curve, they bend, and sometimes they seem to go backward. Going forward an inch may seem more productive, but the Taoist knows that stepping backward a bit often allows us to see the path ahead more clearly. Then, instead of desperately clinging to every inch of progress, we might see a path off to the side that lets us go forward a mile. There's a super cool TED Talk out there by David Epstein. You can find it on YouTube. It's called How Falling Behind Can Get You Ahead. Honestly, you should probably just go watch that video because he puts it so much better than I ever could. Basically, the video is about how the rush to specialize in our careers often leads to problems down the road, and how those who take a little more time in the beginning to experience different things, without necessarily moving ahead in any of them, often end up outstripping their peers later down the road. We seek to specialize early in our careers because we see it as the quickest path to success, but this isn't always the case. In the talk, Epstein shares an example of a study on comic book creators, where researchers tried to determine what factors make a creator more likely to create a blockbuster comic. The interesting result of the study was that they discovered that the most influential variable was how many genres the creator had worked across. Even more interesting, they found that this factor was more important than other seemingly essential factors, such as amount of experience making comics, or resources available to them from the publisher. We tend to look at those who dabble in multiple areas as unmotivated, uncommitted, and unsuccessful. We often dismiss them with terms like jack of all trades, master of none. But there is research that indicates that these more slow-moving, well-rounded individuals have advantages that early specializers just don't have. You'll have to go watch the TED Talk for more on this, and I really recommend you do because it's very good. It gives a lot of great examples of this concept of taking a step backward to later take steps forward. The most important thing, in my opinion, is to listen to your intuition. Don't do something just because everybody else is doing it, or because it seems like the normal thing. Take the time to engage with your intuition and feel what the right step is. If you take the time to do this, you will know. There's a saying that you hear a lot in athletics: slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I believe this saying comes from the Navy SEALs. The meaning behind this is that if you're willing to take things a bit slower, it pays off in the long run by allowing you to do things more smoothly, which helps prevent you from making as many mistakes. I definitely understand what it feels like to feel like you're getting behind, and it's not fun. But if you can have the courage and the trust to follow your intuition even at the cost of looking dumb, you'll be glad you did. Come join the Discord if you want to talk more about this kind of stuff with a thoughtful community. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow for Chapter 70.